as well as theory exam on this subject. Okay. There are total 6 units. We try to go through each and every unit, okay, so that you will get the confidence. So in the previous semesters, you have gone through the microcontrollers like 8051 and the PIC microcontroller. I think you have studied all these processors basically in microcontrollers subject. In that particular subject, you have studied the 8051 microcontroller, which is 8-bit microcontroller, and also the PIC microcontroller. Okay, so that is what you have studied in the semester 1. Now in the semester 2, you have to study the next your microprocessor or the microcontroller that is called as ARM. Okay, that is called as ARM7 microprocessor. So which is an advanced microprocessor compared to the 8051 and the PIC microcontroller. Okay, so out of these 6 units, the unit number 1, you just observe this. Unit number 1 is depends upon the ARM7, ARM9 and ARM11 processors. So in this unit particularly, you have to study the different ARM processors. Okay, so before I will start, what is ARM? What is the full form of ARM? Anyone? What is the full form of ARM? ARM. Can anybody know the full form of ARM? So it's a advanced risk machine. It's architecture basically. It's a RISC. I have just posted that is what the advanced risk machines, that is called as ARM. Okay, so ARM7 is nothing but the core. Okay, so there are different advanced risk machines. So risk is one type of architecture we discussed. There are 2 types of architectures. One is called as a RISC architecture and another is called as a CISC architecture. Previously, that is the first time CISC is developed, and after that the RISC architecture is developed. Okay, and depending upon the different different cores, you have ARM7 core, ARM9 core, or ARM11 type of your processors. Okay, so basically 7, 9, 11, this indicates the cores of the processor. Okay, so each core having its own advantages, that is some feature get updated in ARM7, in ARM9 and ARM11. Okay, so in the unit number 1, we have to get introduced to ARM processor. That is how these ARM processors are getting different from the your ARM 8051 and the PIC microcontroller, and its different versions. Okay, so that is what I have just explained. That is it having ARM 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like up to 11, or there are some advanced ARM processors also. That is called as Cortex M and Cortex A processors. Okay, just a minute. I just take the attendance. So in this unit, we have to see what is ARM processor and what are its different versions. Okay, and out of that, you have to concentrate on the 3 main versions. One is called as a ARM7, ARM9, and ARM11. Okay, so you have to put the focus or more emphasis on these 3 types of ARM processors, and then what you have to study about these 3 processors. Okay, someone want to join. We have to study the features, okay, then advantages and stability in embedded applications. Okay, if anyone having the problem while joining the lecture? Okay, let me know. Okay, just put the name in the chat box or any query in the chat box. Okay. So in unit number 1, you have to see what are the different types of ARM processor, its versions. Okay, you have to study the features of each microprocessor, that is ARM7, ARM9, and ARM11. Then we have to see the advantages. Okay, of each version, that is 7, 9, and 11. What are the advantages of these microprocessors, and what is the suitability in embedded application, that is fair to use these microprocessors. Okay, or what are the applications of ARM7, what are the applications of ARM9, and what are the applications of ARM11. Okay, so these things we have to study. So that is what I expected in our first unit. After that, you have to study a very important point, that is called as a architecture of ARM. Okay, that is the basic architecture of ARM, maybe the 7, 9, or 11. Okay, so like your 8051, that is the architecture of 8051, you have the architectures of ARM also. So in this architecture of ARM, you have to study number of registers available to ARM7. Okay, for example, your 8051 microcontroller having some registers like accumulator, okay, or register B, okay, and you have that some register banks also. So likewise, what are the different registers available for your ARM architecture or ARM7 microprocessor? So that we have to see. So then we have to see the CPSR and SPSR. So this CPSR is called as a current program status registers, and SPSR is called as a saved program status register. So basically, these are the two registers that are used to find out the status of your ARM7. Okay, so this is called as a status registers. In 8051 or PIC, you have flag registers. Okay, so that flag register is equivalent to the CPSR and SPSR. So these are called as the status registers. Okay. So what is the use of status registers? Status registers will give you the status of your operations. For example, you have added two numbers or subtracted two numbers. So what is the status? Okay, that is whether the carry is generated or not, whether the result is 0 or not. Okay, so these kinds of operations, or that is the status of the operations, is given by or indicated by this status registers. Okay, so in ARM7 you have these two status registers called as the CPSR and SPSR. Okay, called as the current program status registers and saved program status registers. Okay, now next you have the two types of design philosophy that I have just explained, that is called as a RISC and CISC. Okay, and also the ARM and the RISC design philosophy. Okay, so ARM means advanced RISC machine. Okay, and RISC means reduced instruction set computing. Okay, so you should know these keywords. So I'm just trying to introduce you to all of these keywords. Okay, ARM, advanced RISC machines. Okay, and RISC is called as a reduced instruction set computing. Okay, so we have to see the design philosophy of these two terms. Then we have to see the data flow model of ARM7. Okay, so this will include in the architecture of the ARM7. Okay, that is how data will flow between the registers and memory. Okay, in ARM7 processor. So that we have to see. Then we have the programmer's model. Okay, these are nothing but the set of registers. Okay, then you have the modes of operations. So here there are at least 7 different modes of operations in ARM7. So this is all about, just see, this is all about the your ARM processor and its versions. Okay, so in this unit you have, or in this particular topics, you have to study the different ARM processors, its versions. Okay, then you have to compare ARM7, ARM9, and ARM11 based upon the parameters such as the features, advantages, and the suitable applications in the practical use. Okay, Then in next point, you have to study the architecture of your ARM7, in which you have to study different registers available to the ARM7. Then different status register like CPSR or SPSR available to your ARM7. And then you have to see some design philosophy such as RISC and CISC architectures. Okay. Then you have to see the programmers models and different operating modes of your ARM7. So this is all about this. I hope you understood this. Okay, so in detail, we'll see one by one. Okay, so I will just explain what are the different concepts or topic we have to study. So this is quite interesting and quite simple. Okay, now there is a one more platform available for the users. Okay, so if some students are not familiar or comfortable with ARM type of this embedded boards, so they can use this next board called as a TIVA TM 4C123Z. Okay, so this is called as a TIVA boards. Okay, so this is again one kind of development platform that is developed by Texas Instruments. Okay, so if you are not very much comfortable with ARM7, you can use this TIVA boards, which is manufactured by Texas Instruments. Okay, so most of the time these boards are used by the that is postgraduate and research fellows for the experimentation purpose. Okay, to carry out their research work. That is called as a TIVA TM4C123. Okay, so this is very much equivalent board compared to your ARM7 development board. Okay, the meaning of this, you can perform the same operations that you are able to perform on the ARM7 development board. Okay, only thing is that it is somewhat different with the features. Okay, and also it requires some another programming library. Okay, so the languages are not completely same. Okay, I will explain this maybe in next two lectures. But basically, in this topic, you have to just get introduced to this TIVA board only. Okay, so the weightage on this topic is only for maybe the 4 to 5 months, and what different things you have to study in this particular topic is nothing but just study the block diagram of this TIVA board and the different features that are available for the TIVA board. Nothing is expected on this topic. Okay, just remember this. This topic may be asked for 5 months for offline exam, and they might ask some MCQ questions on this particular point. Okay, so right now you have to remember that this TIVA board is very much equivalent to your ARM7 development board only. Okay, so if you are interested in this TIVA board, you can purchase it offline, and you can do your own programming also. Okay, but basically these are used right now by the postgraduate and the research fellows. Okay, so this is all about unit number 1. Okay, I hope you have understood. Let me give me some confirmation that you are getting the things or not. Are you getting Gaikwad, Isar, Sonolkar, Kache, Display? Okay. If you have any problem, if you are not getting these things, okay, let me know. Okay, I will again discuss the same things. Still, you will get the feel of all these concepts. Okay, but right now in this lecture, I will just explain what are the things we have to study. Okay, and let's get introduced to some of the keywords like ARM, then your RISC and CISC. Okay, now we have next unit, that is called as unit number 2, that is completely based upon ARM7 based microcontroller. Okay, so there are a number of ARM controllers or processors available like ARM7, ARM9, ARM11. Okay, out of that we have to concentrate on ARM7 microcontroller in unit number 2. Okay, so unit number 2 is very much straightforward. In this particular unit, you have to study the architecture of your ARM7. Okay, now just see, this is ARM7. Now 80 ARM7 is very much similar to 8051. Okay, but there are different manufacturers that will manufacture these kind of product. Okay, for example, 8051 will be manufactured by Atmel. Okay, that you know. Okay, and there are number of companies that will manufacture the 8051. Similar way, ARM7 also manufactured by number of manufacturers or companies. Okay, out of that, we have to concentrate on the a product that is called as a LPC2148. Okay, so what is LPC2148? So LPC2148 is a ARM7 based microcontroller which is manufactured by Philips. Okay, so uh, LPC indicates that this is the product that is manufactured by your company called as a Philips. Okay, it is also called as a NXP in capital letter NXP. So that is what the right now the name given to the Philips, also called as a NXP. Okay, and this 2148, this particular number indicates that this particular microcontroller is based upon the ARM7 family. Okay, so ARM7 based microcontroller is called as LPC2148. Okay, just remember. So this is what the practical IC available in the market if you want to purchase the ARM7 development board. Okay, like 8051 we know that is 89C51. Okay, so this indicates that this is manufactured by Atmel manufacturer. So likewise, LPC2148 is a ARM7 based microcontroller which is manufactured by Philips. Okay, so it is expected that we have to study the data sheets of LPC2148. Okay, in this particular topic. Now in the architecture or in the block diagram, you have to study the different features of ARM7. Okay, what are the different features? For example, the number of input-output ports available for this microcontroller, the number of ADCs available, DACs available, the number of timers. Okay, then number of counters. Then you have the RTC watchdog timer. Okay, number of serial communication port like UART0, UART1. Okay, so what are the different features available to this IC that we have to study? Then we have to study the architectures. Okay, in the architecture you have to study the block diagram and its description of each part. Okay, then in this unit you have to study the system control block. So what are the system control block? This is called as a PLL and PPB. Have you heard about PLL? I think you have heard. Okay, in IC subject. What is PLL? Deepak? What is the long form of PLL? So PLL is nothing but the phase locked loop. Okay, you might have studied this. Okay, it's a phase locked loop. So PLL, this is what only the long form of this. I have not asked what is the application of this block. So PLL are basically used to increase the frequencies. Okay, so it is a multiplier to your input frequency, and you can increase the frequencies also by using this PLL. Okay. Now there is another function is called as a PPB divider. Okay. So again, what is the long form of this PPB is called as a virtual peripheral bus. Okay, divider. So basically, this is used to divide the frequencies. Okay. So one can ask that what is the need of PLL and PPB divider blocks? Okay. So basically, we have two different things in our micro controller or microprocessor. So the one is a microprocessor, that is a main microprocessor or microcontroller, and another thing is we have the peripherals. What are the different peripherals? Like ADC, DACs, okay, RTC, UART, all these are called as a peripherals. Okay. Now, what is the difference in these two particular parts, that is the microcontroller and the peripherals? So, if you observe that microcontrollers or microprocessors are always work on a very high frequencies. Okay, that means these are very fast. Okay, but if you compare your peripherals with a microprocessor or microcontrollers, so you will observe that these peripherals will not operate on a high frequencies, or they are not able to give the response in a very few seconds, or in a few, that is in a very fast way. Okay. So that is what the main problem with the peripherals. So it is concluded that the microprocessor or microcontrollers can work on a very high frequencies, whereas your peripherals are very slow. So do not supply higher frequencies to your peripherals, because they are not going to work on higher frequencies. So you require some lower frequencies to work. Okay. And that is the reason why we have this divider block called as a PPB divider. Okay. So whatever the high frequencies that we give to the microprocessor, the same frequency is divided by some factor. For example, that the input frequency is of 12 megahertz. So if I divide it by 2, so 6 megahertz of frequency I can supply to the peripherals, because they can work on a lower frequencies, but my processor cannot work on the lower frequency, that will work on higher frequencies. So I have the PLL block. So PLL block will multiply or increase the frequencies, whereas my another block called as a PPB divider block will divide the frequencies, and I will supply these frequencies to the different peripherals, because the peripherals can work on low frequencies only. Okay. For example, we can take the analogous example of teacher and the students. Okay. So if teacher having a high rate of delivery, okay, that is I will deliver lecture in a very high speed. Okay. So that is my capability. That is what is the analogous example to the microprocessor or microcontroller. And all students, they can be treated as a peripherals, so they are quite slow. Okay, so they cannot synchronize with the speed of the processors or the teachers. So if teacher having a very high speed of speech delivery, so that time most of the students are not able to get the concept, okay, or that particular message. So teacher has to uh, cut down their speed of speech delivery, so that the student will get the concept easily. Okay, so that is what the analogous example with the microprocessor and the peripherals. Okay. And what happen if teacher will deliver its speech very fastly? So in this case, what happen, the student are not able to get the message. Okay, so they are not going to acquire these things quite easily, and they have the difficulty. So the same thing happen with a microprocessor and your peripherals. Okay, so if you supply the higher frequencies to your peripherals, so these peripherals will not work properly. Okay. Now next block or next concept is called as a memory map. Okay, that is, we know that each microprocessor and microcontroller having a two memories. One is a RAM memory and another is a ROM memory. That is a random access memory and the read-only memory. Okay. There is a question also, why there are two types of memories? Can anybody answer this? Why we have two types of memories? Okay. Akshita Sonone having put some query. Okay. Is it audible to all? Sonone, is it audible right now? Deepak, is it audible to all? Okay. Okay. No problem. So my question is that, okay, why there are two types of memories? Okay, we have the RAM and ROM memory. Why we require two types of memory? That is my question. Okay, so who is going to answer the questions? Or otherwise, I have to go one by one. At least you have to try. Okay. Hello. At least you should attempt. Why there are two memories? Why there are two memories? Have you think about this? Why we are using two memories? Okay, so let it be as a homework to you people. Okay, on next lecture, okay, you go through your textbooks or Google and find out the answer. Why microprocessor controls require two memories, RAM and ROM? Why not to use a single memory? Okay, so this is my questions to you. Okay, you just go through it and find out or come with one answer, and you have to justify. Okay, right now I'm not going to answer. Maybe in next lecture. Okay, so this is what the homework, simple homework. Now next topic from the unit number 2 is GPIO. What is GPIO? General purpose input output. Okay, that is how many pins of your microcontroller or microprocessor can be used to connect your general purpose input devices and output devices. What are the input devices? You have the keypad, switches, okay, different types of sensors or analog or digital sensors. So these are the different input devices that can be connected to your microprocessor or microcontroller through the GPIO pins. Okay, GPIO, it's very simple. General purpose input pins or general purpose output pins. Now, what are the output devices? You have the LEDs, you have the motors, you have the buzzers, okay, you have the GPS, GSM, okay, wireless. All these modules can be connected to the output pins. Okay, so you have to study what are the different GPIO pins or how many GPIO pins are there for your ARM7 microcontroller. Okay, then there is a block called as a pin connect block. Okay, so I will explain this pin connect block also. Then you have to study the timer. So what is the use of timer? Again, simple question. What is the use of timer? You can put your answer in chat box also. What is the use of timer? You have studied timer in 8051 and in PIC microcontrollers also. What is the use of timer? Okay. I have got one answer from. I have just put the answer. Okay. Measuring specific interval of time. Okay. So if you want to measure, okay, another I have got from. Okay. Measuring time delays. Okay. From Gokure for measuring time. Okay. So there are two types. Okay, so we have the timers and the counters. Okay, so basically timer is used to generate the time delays. Okay, so basically it is a output type of function. Okay, timer is used to generate a time, okay, or some delays, and not measuring the time delays. Okay, you have to generate the time delays, and counters are used to measure the delays also. Okay, if you want to measure time, you can put a counter. Okay, so these are the two different peripheral timers and counters. Timers are used to generate the time delays. Okay, so that I can synchronize my event. For example, after every 10 seconds, I have to turn on my LED. Okay, so that time I will just turn on my LED. Okay, or let I have a simple function, simple application, that is turn on and off my LED after every 5 seconds. Okay, so for 5 seconds my LED will be on, and after 5 seconds it will be off for next 5 seconds. Okay, so this is the applications. So I can use a timer. Okay, that means I will generate a time delay of only 5 maybe seconds or milliseconds. Okay, so I will turn on my LED I will keep it on for 5 seconds or 5 milliseconds, and after that I will make it off. Okay, so you can control different events by using the timer. Or for example, let after every 1 hour I have to turn on my motor. Okay, so this is also possible by using the timers. Okay, now the same thing can be possible by using writing a delays or subroutines. Okay, maybe you have written subroutines. Subroutines to generate delays. You have written different subroutines to generate delays in 8051. Okay. So I have shared this. Okay. So subroutines to generate delays. I think you have used in 8051. You have make your LED on and off by using subroutine delay. Okay. You have written some delay loops. Okay, and you have put some counters. So there are two ways to generate a delays. One is the first way is to generate a delay by using a writing a subroutine. Okay, and another way to generate a time delays is to using a timer. Okay, so what is the difference between these two? That you have to understand first. If I can generate a time delays by writing some instructions or by writing some subroutine code, then is there any requirement of timer? Okay, so this we have to understood first. Okay, that is I have subroutines to generate a time delays, and also I have a timer to generate a time delays. Okay, so what is the difference and in which application we have to use this? That's it. Both are very simple. So if you use these subroutines, now basically what happens in subroutine, uh, we have a number of instructions. Okay, and for each instructions, if you remember, each instruction requires some particular time to execute. Okay, for example, let we have some 10 instructions, and for one instruction requires 1 milliseconds for the execution. Okay, and 10 instructions. Now again, the execution time of this instruction depends upon the type of instructions. Okay, and you require the frequency also. How to calculate the execution time of each instructions? So for this you require the number of t states or execution cycles. Okay, and also you require the frequency of your crystal also. So what happens if you try to generate a time delays with the help of these subroutine instructions? So these subroutine instructions are dependent upon the frequency that supplied to the your board. Okay, so if my initial frequency to the board is 12 megahertz, okay, so I will generate a delay of 10 seconds. Okay, but now if I use a crystal of 16 megahertz, so in this case I am not going to get a time delay of 10 seconds. Okay, so that is the problem. That means if I change the crystal, the time that is generated by your subroutine, that is also get changed. Okay, so that is what the main problem with the subroutine instructions. Okay, I not to use a subroutine instructions, because these subroutine instructions or delays are directly dependent upon the frequency that is supplied to your board. Okay, so if I change the board, the frequency, the time is also getting changed. Okay, so every time you have to recalculate your subroutine subroutine instructions or the parameters. Now what is the alternative to this? Find out to use a timer. So timer is basically used to generate a precise times. Okay, precise time means you will get a perfect time in hour, minutes, seconds, milliseconds, or microseconds. Okay, so there are some applications called as a real-time applications. Okay, what is a real-time applications? How you will define the real-time? is a real time. Okay. Then we will see what is the real time applications. So real time is nothing but if I give input to any systems without a zero delay, it will give me the output. Okay. So theoretically this is possible, but practically this is not possible. Okay. So if you require uh, uh, if you require to execute such a kind of task, okay, so that time you require the timer. Okay, because timer is not dependent on anything. So that is what the very important thing you have to understand. So in the real-time applications, timer are used. In non-real-time applications, you can use a subroutine delays or subroutine instructions. Okay, so I think you have understood this. That is the basic difference between the timer and the subroutine instructions. So timers are very important if you want to execute some critical events. Okay, so whatever the critical things that must be executed by the timer and not by writing a subroutine delays by using instructions. Okay, so that's why there is a separate sections available in the this unit number 2. Okay, then next point from the unit number 2 is the instruction set. Okay, so like 8051 and PIC, ARM7 also having its own instruction set. Okay, so some assembly instructions are also there, and we'll see some instructions also like addition, subtractions. Okay, then your move instructions. Okay, logical instructions, then you have branch instructions. Okay, so you have to study different assembly instructions of your ARM7, and also you have to write some assembly language program for addition, subtractions. Just you have to transfer the blocks of your memory. Okay, so this is what expected in unit number 2. So unit number 2 is basically concentrated on ARM7. Okay, architecture, that is nothing but the data sheet of your LPC2148. So this is the device which is called as ARM7 based microcontroller. So you have to study the architecture of this particular microprocessor. Then we will go to the unit number 3. Now unit number 3 is unit number 3 and unit number 4 is basically based upon the interfacing of peripherals, okay, with your ARM7. Okay, so right now we are going to study ARM7 microprocessor or microcontroller. So unit number 3 is based upon the real world interfacing with ARM7 based microcontroller. Okay, so what are the different input devices or output devices we have to interface to your ARM7? So you have to interface LED to your ARM7, you have to interface LCD to your ARM7, you have to study GLCD. What is GLCD? So GLCD is called as a graphics LCD. So up till now you have studied LED and LCD interfacing, but you have not studied the graphics LCD interfacing. So in this particular subject, we are going to see the interfacing of this graphics LCD also. Okay. So what is the difference between LCD and graphics LCD? Graphics LCD can display the images, okay, which is not possible on your simple LCD. Okay, so this is what the advantage with the GLC. Then you have to interface keypad to your ARM7. Okay, so these are the different interfacing we have to discuss in unit number 3. You have to draw the interfacing diagram, and also you have to write the code for the same. Okay. Then we have to study the interrupt structure for LPC2148. You know what is the interrupt. Okay. The next point, simple LPC2148 GPIO programming examples using timers of LPC2148 to generate a delay. Okay, so just see, this is what a very important application. That is, you have to use the timers to generate a delay and not a subroutine instructions. And you have to just make your LED on and off, okay, for particular time by using a timer sections or timers. The next point is a serial communication or serial communication programming for transmission and reception from computer. Okay, so you can transmit your data and you can receive your data by using this UART called as a, what is UART? It's called as a universal asynchronous receiver transmitter. Then you know what is asynchronous, okay, and what is a synchronous. You have studied in the communications. So you have to program for UART. Okay, so this is what expected in unit number 3. So to summarize, in unit number 3, you have to interface your ARM7 to LED, LCD, GLCD, keypad, timer, and UART. Okay, so this different interfacing called as a real world interfacing you have to draw and you have to write a code for the same. Okay, and you have to check it on the development board. Unit number 4 is also dependent upon the real world interfacing with ARM7 based microcontroller. In this unit, you have to interface some of the modules such as GSM, okay, global system for mobile, GPS module, okay. Then you have on-chip ADC. So in this particular unit, you have to interface GSM module, GPS module. You have to interface your on-chip ADC, okay, and that should be on-chip ADC using interrupt and without interrupt. Okay, we'll see what is with interrupt and this without interrupt. And then EA square PROM. Okay, your ROM IC. You have to interface your EAS PROM using I2C. Okay, what is I2C? What is EEPROM? Electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. Using I2C, it is a inter-integrated circuit. So this is one kind of serial protocol. Okay, that means you can interface number of devices to your single microcontrollers by using this serial protocol called as a I2C. Okay, you might have studied in 8051 or in PIC microcontroller. Okay. Then SD card, already you know that interfacing of SD card, but by using another protocol called as a serial peripheral interface. Okay, so this is one peripheral, one protocol called as I2C protocol. Second protocol is called as a SPI protocol, serial peripheral interface protocol. Then you have to also interface the on-chip DAC to generate the waveforms. Okay. So basically, in unit number 4, you have to interface some of the very important module that you might use in your mini projects or in final year projects. Okay, such as GSM module, GPS module, ADC and DAC modules, then ESPROM and SD card modules. Okay, and also you have to study some serial protocol like I2C and the SPI protocol. So the first 4 units are directly dependent on the ARM7. You can observe first unit, second, third, and fourth. These are units that are dependent on your 8051 based microcontroller. Okay. Unit number 5th and 6th. Okay. So these are related to your digital signal processor. Okay. It's a digital signal processor. So unit number 5 and unit number 6. So these are nothing but the digital processor or digital signal processor. So in unit number 5th, you have to study different digital signal processor. In third year, first semester, you have studied the subject digital signal processor. So now it is expected to apply all these concepts, and you have to practically check all the applications on your digital signal processor in this particular subject of advanced processor. Okay, that means in the previous subject you have just studied the concepts, but now in this subject you have to apply those concepts, and you have to implement these concepts on the DSP processor. Okay, so in the unit number 5th, you have to study introduction to digital processor, different computer architecture for signal processing. Okay, general purpose digital signal processors. Selecting digital signal processor means there are a number of digital signal processor available in the market. Now we have to determine what are the different selection criteria for this digital signal processor. Okay, then special purpose DSP hardware we have to see. Okay, then architecture of this TMS 320C67XX. Okay, so now likewise LPC 2148, which is a ARM7 microprocessor or microcontroller. Now this TMS 320XX. Okay, so this is called as a digital signal processor, again manufactured by Texas Instruments. Okay, so just remember this TMS stands for Texas Instruments, and 320 series is nothing but the digital signal processor series. Okay, and C67XX is a family of this digital signal processor. So we have to study this particular digital signal processor in unit number 5th and 6th. Okay, so in unit number 5th, you have to study the block diagram of this digital signal processor TMS 320 C67XX series. You have to study the features of this particular family. Then you have to study the central processing unit, general purpose register files. Okay. Then you have to study the functional units and operations, data paths, and control registers. So basically, in unit number 5, we have to study the block diagram of digital signal processors and its related block descriptions. Now, unit number 6 is also based on a digital signal processor, that is nothing but the TMS 320XX. Okay, but in this particular unit, you have to discuss what are the different functional units. Now, like your 8051 PIC or ARM7, this TMS 320 digital signal processor also requires the memory like RAM memory, ROM memory, some internal memory, and some external memory. It also having some on-chip peripherals. It having interrupts. DSP processor also having its own instruction set and also different addressing modes. There are two types of digital processors available in the market. One is called as a fixed point uh, digital processor, and another is called as a floating point digital signal processor. So you have to study different types of instructions like fixed point instructions as well as floating point instructions. Then you have to see some conditional operations, some parallel operations. You have to study what is pipeline operations, and also you have to study the Code Composer Studio applications of and applications on this particular board. Okay, so basically Code Composer is a software that is used to write a program like your linear convolution. You can write the code for linear convolution on this Code Composer Studio, and you can download this code into the this digital signal processor 320 and check whether you are getting the correct convolution of two sequences. Okay, so this is a simple applications, but you can check other applications also. So this is what expected in unit number 5th and 6th. So basically these two units are very much theoretical units and very simple units. Okay, they have focused on only this digital signal processor TMS 320. Okay, in this you have to study the block diagram and architecture of this TMS 220, different features. Okay, and whatever the related peripherals that you have to study the in unit number 6. Okay, so basically the 6 units are divided in two groups. First 4 units that are related with your ARM7 based microprocessor, that is LPC 2148, whereas unit number 5th and 6th, that is related with your DSP processor. Okay, and that DSP processor is TMS 320. So that is what simple. You can use different reference books like Andrew Sloss you have for your ARM system developer. For digital signal processor, you can use Venkatramani or Bhaskar. Okay, and also you can use some reference books that are mentioned in the this syllabus. Okay, so basically this is all about the subject advanced processor. I hope you have understood what we are going to see in this subject. Okay. So before again I will proceed, I want to some confirmation whether you have understood the concept or not. Or if you have any problem, query, okay, you can ask or you can put into the chat box.